Welcome to the Building Insight podcast, alongside my host, DJ Jazzy Jeff, aka Marco. Our guest today, we have a special edition. It's going to be our director of construction for the Flooring Pros, Austin Wright. Austin, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
And you are in no way being paid for this, right?
Nope, not at all. Unfortunately.
Okay, good. So Austin, I guess, what we tend to do on these podcasts, and I don't know if you've ever listened to anything like this, but really, I'm kind of interested in learning your story. I mean, I know obviously a lot about you personally. We work together on a daily basis, but for our dozens of viewers, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of give us your story, and we'll kind of kick it off from there.
Cool. So yeah, Austin Wright, director of construction at the Flooring Pros. I guess I'll start from my background. I'll just kind of go up until college. Let's fast forward a little bit. You guys don't want to hear about the early days. So
I've heard.
Yeah, so I played a little ball in college, and that really drove in home. Like I love leadership and teamwork. So taught me a ton there. I went to school to play ball, and that really helped me a ton in the leadership, learning some leadership skills. So from there, I ended up moving to Charleston as soon as I graduated, and got into construction, kind of by happenstance. I had a buddy that basically had a job at a masonry company working at a children's hospital. So very large scale commercial construction from the start. I'd never set foot on a residential home or anything like that. So kind of got thrown into the fire. I'd originally just decided to take a year off of life, since I was kind of in the weeds of school, up until that point. So I ended up getting in the masonry field. Worked with the masonry company for about 3 years in Charleston. Got into the scaffolding business while I was there. So I ended up getting into hydraulic scaffolding systems. Did very well with that, and got recruited by the manufacturer out of Canada, and that sent me down an even deeper large scale commercial construction world. So I ended up traveling up and down the East Coast from New York to Miami, installing these scaffolding systems, working very closely with OSHA, teaching them how to install these things. Did a
cool.
lot of work very high up in the air. You're talking 400, 500 feet up in the air, working on high rises. So that led me into to really figuring out that, okay, I really like leadership. I really like large scale commercial, the adrenaline rush of putting things together and really building, and seeing things, from start to finish. So from there, I realized, okay, I'm kind of capped out at the company I'm at. So what's next? Well, I decided to move back to Charlotte. Me and my wife at the time were trying to figure out exactly what we wanted to do, and we realized, like, well, we're far away from family. I think the next move is Charlotte. I got on Indeed, and ironically enough, the Flooring Pros popped up. It was my very first job post on the page. So luckily for me, I knew Jason from the past, so I ended up just giving him a call. He put me through the ringer. I came to Charlotte like 3 different times for interviews, and started out. Luckily he hired me. Moved the family to Charlotte. Bought into the big dream that Jason has sold all of us at this point. And yeah, I mean, came in as a project manager. Jason was looking to grow the commercial side of his business, and lucky for me, I was able to get in and help. So I came in as a project manager, moved into estimating, moved into business development, and then now in the director of construction role. So that's kind of a quick synopsis of where I'm at now.
All right, nice. I didn't know you did scaffolding.
Yeah.
So you were one of those like adrenaline junkies right out of college, like looking to do something wild and crazy. Okay.
Exactly.
Not afraid of heights, I'm assuming?
Not at all. I love it.
Okay. That's good. So I guess and obviously, like, you and I have had a lot of conversations about this, but, throughout your story there, you mentioned a lot about, like, your desire for leadership and, what that meant for you. What was it about, like, playing college sports that really kinda, like, piqued your interest as you moved into more of the professional world?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I was constantly like being seeing a lot of good leadership and a lot of bad leadership, and that taught me a lot, like how terrible it was to just put your head down and follow a bad leader just because they are in that role. And what it's like to have a good leader. Like you want to show up, you want to impress. So for me, like it was okay. Well, I like following this guy. How can I be this guy though? So it ended up turning out to where it's like okay, I want to be a good leader, and I got a lot of fulfillment out of leading my teammates. So yeah, hope that answers it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and I guess, like, so I guess what's been, like, the most difficult thing for you in translating that, like, on the field leadership? Like, I mean, you're playing football, right? Like, I mean, being a leader is hyping guys up in the locker room and then, leaving it out all on the field, right?
And
Like, there's a tangible result, I guess, is like what I'm looking at, right? Whereas, in business, particularly in construction, these commercial projects, they last months and months and months, right? So,
yeah,
like, the skill set's a little bit different. So I guess I'm curious, like, what is it that, I guess, translated from, being that in the moment type of leader, hype the guys up, produce on the field every day, that now is the same in the construction world.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right. It's a lot quicker results in the in the football world, as is in the commercial construction world. It's you might land a project and it might not start for a year, it might not end until a year after that. So it's really getting your team to buy in, to really stand out and stand with you through all the low points, because there's going to be some low points. In football it might just be an inning, and in commercial construction, it could be the course of a project if you have a bad project manager. Like there
Mhm.
could be a project manager that is just seems to not want you to win. Maybe it's something going on
Right.
in his personal life or what. It's like, hey man, I'm really trying my hardest here. And he's dragging your team through the dirt. I mean, I think we've all been in those situations. And for me, it's about getting your team to buy in, and not just pointing finger and say, hey, I need you to go do this or do that. It's like, okay, well, I guess we're doing this and we're doing that. Like, getting in the dirt with them, and really showing, that you're not just a leader that points fingers and expects people to jump. Just because your title says this doesn't mean that people are just going to follow you because of the title. One of the things
Right.
Jason taught me a long time ago was, you know, it don't matter what your title is. It don't matter what you get paid.
Uh-huh.
Leaders lead from the bottom as well. Like,
Mhm.
so it's leading from the ground up. So I think a lot of it is just showing your teammates that that you're willing to put in just as much hard work as they are, and what
Right.
you expect, because you can't ask somebody to do something that you won't do. So I think
Right.
it's getting that respect from a leadership
Mhm.
perspective.
Yeah, and I think, that was probably one of the biggest things for me when I first joined the Flooring Pros, right? Is, I was the new guy, right? Moved across the country. Who's this dude that Jason's been talking to all this time? Like, what's he doing in my office, right? And, like, you know, coming in and being, like, anointed as a leader, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because, like, if I came in there and just started, like, doing what you're talking about, like, just pointing and saying, like, "Hey, do this, do that," um, and then just, like, sitting back in my cushy office, then, you know, y'all ain't gonna respect me, right? So, like, and I've told this to Amy before, I'm sure I've said it to you too, Austin, like, I picked the worst office right out the gate, right?
Yeah.
Like, I could have very easily moved into, the nice office with the glass windows and all this type of stuff. Like, I decided to move into the one with the hole in the wall, right? And that,
Which is now Austin's
yeah, which is
office,
which
ironically.
is now Austin's
Full
office.
circle.
Um, and then, like, the big thing for me, again, just like first starting out, was getting that team buy-in, like, making sure that you guys understood, you know, this guy's going to go to war with me, right?
Mm.
Like he's going to do the things, like he's not just going to, and not to begrudge any other leaders that we've ever had here. But there was definitely a culture of, of I'm the boss and you're not, right? And I think again, whether it's in sports or whether it's in, in commercial construction like we're in, um, that doesn't go a very long ways, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
you lose the room real quick. So,
Mhm.
I guess like kind of on that same note, you know, you're like I'm a young leader, right? You're obviously a young leader. What are some of the challenges that I guess that you've had to face, like whether in the field or with your team, or I guess what's it like being being younger, um, in a for all intents and purposes like a very substantial role within the company.
Yeah, yeah, and if I could to take it back to the masonry days, I was a, an even younger leader at the time, I think 25 when I got put into like a really a larger leadership role, and I had 22, 23 people under me. And most of those people were a lot older than me. Most of those people had been through a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm talking about guys who had been to prison, been to college, worked in large firms, and to get them to buy in to listen to this young guy was tough. And some people are just closed minded, and they're not going to, unfortunately. And as fast forward to where I'm at right now, I think it kind of goes back to really putting in the work. Getting the team at the Flooring Pros to follow, I think has been a little bit easier because they've seen kind of where I've come from. They see, that I've been willing to put in the work for a long time now. One of the challenges I've had is leading and um really getting people to follow me from a general contractor perspective, or maybe not even follow, but more like buying in to this younger guy's dreams. A lot of the construction world, a lot of these big VPs, they're the older generation, and they don't want a young guy sometimes to come in and think he knows what think he knows what he's talking about. They a lot of people we deal with end up my way or the highway. I was like, hey man, I really got a good idea. I really think I could help bring some benefit to your project, if you hear me out on this. And I think that's probably been the larger challenge probably.
Mhm, mhm.
We're a young team in general. I mean, I feel like people have made comments about that too.
Yeah.
Just, wow, you guys look like, you're young, you have fun. We do a really good job of, representing ourselves and living up to our core values, and age is just a number. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think it's something that people
I mean, just
appreciate.
like a personal experience, like, I'm in a role where, people traditionally in the construction industry are, in their 50s or 60s before they're even sniffing, right?
Yeah.
And Austin kind of the same piece with you, right? And one of the first things, or maybe not one of the first things that people say, because most of the time they're going to be nice, right? But I can feel them making that judgment, right? Is
Mhm.
like, who's this, 34-year-old guy who, who thinks he knows what the hell he's talking about, right? And initially for me, it, is very much like, I gotta, I'm just gonna ignore it and, hopefully they'll come around. But at the end of the day, you know, it's all about how you carry yourself, right? And I think it
Yeah.
translates back to like the leadership piece, right? And anybody who has been around me for more than 5 minutes, like that, I hope for the most part that gets turned over, right?
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, it's like it's a very real thing, right? So, what is it that I can do? What is it that you guys can do to, to combat that, right? Like this gray in my beard, this is actually just like, Rogaine that I'm touching up to make myself look older, right? Um,
Gotta give that a
but
try.
but you know what I'm saying, right? Like
Yeah.
in Austin, like I'm sure again, like especially out in the field, you hand out your business card and you're the director of construction, right? And you're handing it out to some 55-year-old journeyman, PM who is like, dude, I've forgotten more about construction than this guy has ever even known. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
So like, what are some of the things that you've done or you've kind of tried to focus on to make sure that like age isn't an issue when it comes to your reputation or towards the respect that you garner from your peers?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And I've thought a lot about it. So, you know, from the masonry days, I learned very quickly. It's like, okay, well, I can't just halfway know things. Like I have to really study these projects. Study. I mean,
Uh-huh.
past just the estimates, right? Like especially early on, it's like, okay, I didn't come in here with a flooring background or anything. So, year one, it's like I'm sitting here up at night reading, Ardex installation specs and, how does this LVT, acclimate and, whatever it may be, but like really just diving into the details and be able to carry on those conversations. General contractors most of the time or have a general based knowledge, hence the name, right? But have a general based knowledge on construction. They're not necessarily experts at plumbing or HVAC or flooring. So it's like, okay, well, how do I stand out? Well, I stand out by becoming an expert and being something that, someone that they can rely on. And then there in turn, it's like, well, let me use also on everything. He seems to know everything. So it's like that carries us into the next project. So for me, it was like just become an expert at flooring. Like this is gonna be my life, this is my career. Like, how do I fast track the learning? Like you said, like most of these project managers have been doing it for 30, 40 years. Well, how do I streamline that? Well, I'm gonna put in more hours and more work and more time to really study. I mean, you can ask my wife, like there's been countless nights where I've just stayed up and studied these estimates and studied, YouTube videos and really, watching installation methods, from Instagram accounts to, who's the best tile installer in North Carolina and just, studying their page, going to the tile school out near Clemson and taking those manuals home. It's a week course. I take those manuals home and I just study and study and study and look over them as much as I can. So I can have high level conversations that, somebody's been in opposition for 30, 40 years.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. No, I mean, that's, kind of leads me to the next thing that I wanted to bring up to you is, that self-development piece, right? And like your need to always be learning because again, like that's typically been my approach in my role too, right? Is like I gotta blow them away with
Yep.
how I carry myself, with my knowledge base, with my presentation style. Um, and that only comes through through self-development and all of these different avenues. So what I guess like what role has been like has self-development played for you in in getting you to the point that you're at, and what I guess what are you looking at?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I read my first self-development book. I randomly listened to a podcast. It was like, ironically enough, like one of my first podcasts. I had a day where I had to sit on a machine by the water in Charleston, about 150 feet in the air, driving some masons up and down. And I started scrolling and scrolling and found a book. You guys may know him, David Goggins. We went to his event. So I read his Can't Hurt Me book. And I was like, oh man, I could do something besides what I'm doing right now. There's levels. Like I just, for whatever reason, I'd never thought like anything about personal development besides like working out and stuff like that. But like, like I can study and get smarter and do these things. So, for me, it turned into, okay, I'm just gonna go on this reading journey. I haven't stopped since. Like all I do is listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, read books. I drive my wife nuts. Like this is like we're going to the beach. Okay, we're gonna listen to a Jocko Willing book on the way there. So, for me, it's been taking those courses, taking leadership courses, um, reading as many books as I can get my hand on, and not just reading them, taking notes on them, referring back to them, and if it's a good book, just going ahead and starting it back over and reading it again. So for me, it's been nothing but consuming as much knowledge as I can, and that kind of goes back to reading those installation methods when it comes to flooring. Like I'm doing the same thing in my personal life to grow myself.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's, I agree with everything you said. And, I do most of the same things that you're talking about. Like, I don't even listen to music anymore. Like, people
Mhm.
think I'm
Just when I'm in the car.
yeah, like I have one playlist that Amy's heard like 15 times now.
Mhm.
It's got like 12 songs on it, right? But
Randy.
that's just for optics, right? And I do the same thing as you, Austin. When I go and when I'm on vacation, like going on vacation, um, I'm at least polite enough to say, "Hey, sweetheart, you can listen to your music. I'll put in my headphones while I drive the car." Not, "Hey, we're gonna listen to this Jocko Williams for 4 hours." But those are the things that you have to do, right? That's
Mhm.
if you're truly looking to get to that next level, like it doesn't happen overnight. And I think one of the common traps that people fall into is, is again kind of like that older, I say older, kind of that antiquated idea of like, I've been here for so long, I deserve this now, right?
Yeah.
Um, because you can fast track everything, right? And I think everybody on this podcast is a good example of that, right? Is you
Mhm.
know, if you have the skills and you have the desire and you won't take no for an answer, then you can do whatever you want, right? I know in my personal life, right? I mean, my professional life, like I had my own company and I basically like berated Jason to death about, hey man, like I can fix what's going wrong with you right now. Right. And then, after many months of saying that, we made the switch and here I am. And it's good to have like that level of mentor, right? Because at the same time, like I told him, "Hey, I see your gap. I see your problem, Jason, and
Yeah.
I can fix it. And this is how I can fix it." And I was able to prove that I could fix it, right? So he had faith in me. And then I come out and he does the same thing for me, right? In a different area where he's more expertise, where he's more, you know, I guess just better, right? And I think, not I think, if you ask Jason, he will tell you that I'm better at this job than he was, right? And then if you ask me, Jason as a complete man is a better man than I am, right? So I learn from him, he learned from me, we level up together
Yep.
and, ultimately everybody wins, right? The trickle down
Mhm.
happens throughout the company. You guys all catch that through, your work with me. Obviously, Jason comes in and does his other thing there as well, but it's imperative to make sure that you line up with people who also have that same desire to consistently be getting better, right? If Jason wasn't open and willing to, to accept the fact that like, hey, there are pieces of his business that were broken and if he wasn't willing to submit to the fact that like, hey, Quentin might be better at this than I am, then this podcast isn't happening, right?
No.
Like,
Mhm.
the growth that the company has been experiencing over the last 2-3 years, that doesn't happen, right? Um, so and likewise, like if I'm not willing to submit that, you know, for all of the good I have, like I have gaps, right? And if I'm not willing to admit that, hey, Jason's got, you know, has those gaps filled on his side, then I'm not growing as a leader, right?
Mhm.
Um, so like
I
that
also
that
think, like, I think you enjoy this stuff too. I think all the components of when he was the leader of TFP was draining to him. Like, he might not have been bad at it, but I know it would, like, just mentally, physically, just, like, drain him, and I feel like you thrive in these moments, like, and you too, Austin. Like, it's funny thinking about when I first started and, like, how small our team was and the caliber of projects that we were doing, not that there was anything wrong with it, but, like, just seeing how far we've grown and how much, like, as a team we've grown and leadership you guys have grown and everything. So I think that's something to be said for too. Like,
oh,
you
for
guys,
sure.
like, thrive off those moments. Like, when there's chaos or something, you guys are
Yep.
like, "Let's go." Like,
But
this is where I'm gonna, like, and not saying that Jason wasn't good at that, but he just I don't think he enjoyed it in the way that we enjoy it. You know
listen,
what I mean?
we don't need to fluff him up. He's not gonna watch this. It's fine. But no, and I think you're 100% right, Amy, and I guess that's kind of where it falls back to, like my headhunter experience and like understanding, like
Mhm.
making sure that the right person's in the right role, and that way that they can be like set up to win. Right.
Mhm.
Um, but you're right. I mean, it was draining to him, and I thrive on that. Right.
Mhm.
And, Austin, like, when I first came in, I sat down with you and Tanya, and like we call it the whiteboard exercise. And like from Tanya's seat, I don't think there's ever been like a more impactful, you know, exercise that we've ever gone through. But basically just mapped everything out on a whiteboard and said, hey, here's what each of you guys are doing on a daily basis. Austin, what what do you like doing? What do you hate doing? Right. Um, there was a lot more hate than like, but that's not here nor there.
Anything admin, anything technology based.
Right, but, the point of that exercise was, "Hey, Austin, like, this isn't your skill set, right?
Yep,
And this
exactly.
is Tanya's skill set," right? So, like, and again, in a very real way, it's the Jason and me story, right? It's like,
Mhm.
she has gaps filled that you do not, right? And then you have gaps filled that she does not, right? And, like, the baseline of our company was built off of making sure that like, hey, Austin, love you, dude. Austin's not very good at the admin type of stuff, right? So why is Austin doing admin stuff, right? And hey, Tanya is not good at. She's not the guest, so she's not good at this X, right? So why is Tanya like doing this type of stuff? It just doesn't make sense. So, um, it's a very roundabout way to say like, making sure that like you understand what your teams, you know, like that they're burned up about, like what they get excited to go out and do. Like that's absolutely everything. Right.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
and
we found when we did that exercise and figured out, who could handle what and who did the best at what and like doing that, then I mean we started immediately, it seemed like after that started excelling, and then hiring the other gaps as we grew. So I mean it's crucial to the growth of a company. You don't want
Mhm.
people that hate what they're doing either. And not to say that I
Mhm.
hated it, but it was like there was certain times where it's like, man, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm still working on this spreadsheet. I'm never going to get this done. And then we have somebody like a Kevin, our director of pre-con, that could do it in 30 seconds. And I'm sitting here 6 hours later. And it's like,
Mhm,
well, he's way better at this than I am, or Tanya's way better at this. And so let me go out here and run this project or let me go out here and make this, close this deal. Cause that's where my skill set obviously was. And it was very obvious where I was lacking.
mhm, mhm. But no, again, I mean, and I think this is probably like that's probably the self development in you talking, right? Because a lot of people don't like to hear that they're not doing an awesome job at everything, right?
Sure.
My biggest downfall as a person was like I I've gotten better at this, but I thought everything I did was perfect. Cut it up, chop it up, send it out. 5-star, 3-star Michelin restaurant coming through right here, right? Um, and it wasn't until I had a conversation with Jason, and Austin, you heard me tell this story at the retreat a couple weeks ago, um, where I was sitting in the parking lot, and again, just for all intents and purposes, like thinking I'm absolutely crushing it for Jason. Um, and he gave me a piece of feedback about, how I'm the biggest roadblock in my growth of the business. I'm like, dude, like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm smoking it for you right now. Like, but what he pointed out was I like to have control over everything. Right.
You?
Yeah,
No.
right. So, so like I needed it to be done perfectly. Right. I had 3 recruiters on my team, but still like I was handling Jason's account personally. Right. It's
Mhm.
like I was calling every flooring installer across the country. And it's like, you know, I can't scale my time if I do that. Right.
Mhm.
So, and again, I think I'll transition this away from me and back to Austin because he's the guest here, right? But like it was that moment for me when I recognized, like, man, this guy can be a mentor for me and tell me things about me that I don't even know. And from that point forward, I changed my thought process and started thinking like, okay, you know what? I don't think I know anything. And let's
Yeah.
start from that baseline and then move forward from there. So back to you, Austin. Obviously Jason's been a huge mentor for me. I know he's been for you, but like what role has like mentorship or kind of like, I don't know, apprenticeship within your role really played for you?
Yeah. It's crazy because Jason has certainly, I'm not just saying this because he's our owner, but like he's certainly changed my life with being able to, for me looking at him as a mentor, and I had to go and seek that. It's not like mentors just come and was like, hey, I want to mentor you and make you better. It's like, no, I'm texting Jason like at 5 o'clock in the morning. I know he's working out or something. Like, hey, asking this question. So for me it's like, really just becoming a sponge, but not making sure you're not wasting their time as well. Like, they can give you all this information, but if you're not doing nothing with it, then they're not going to continue giving that information. So it's not just going to happen. Like, you have to really absorb and implement everything that your mentor is telling you. For me, it wasn't just business either. It was like my personal life, finances, family. Like how do you be a leader to your kids? How do you be a leader to your spouse and grow your family? Your family's its own business within itself as commercial, I guess, as that sounds, it's true. Like you want to have, that success in your life as well, because without that success, you're not going to be the best, director of construction that you can be. So, for me, it's like, just absorbing and listening to all the advice that, in particular, Jason had given me. But then also, taking advice from, I don't know if you want to call it influencers or alters, but like, these guys that are succeeding in life, the owners of companies, these athletes or whoever it may be, people that's really got it figured out in life. You can get mentorship through the internet these days, and
Mhm.
people sleep on that. They'd rather listen to music and watch Netflix, and then not then question why they're not growing in their personal relationships or in their business. Whether you work for somebody or you own your own business, those answers are out there. One of the biggest lessons that Jason taught me was, you know, somebody has the answers. Like if there's a problem, like somebody's got the answer. Somebody else is doing it. We can do it. Like there was, when he first told me that, there was like no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, oh, I forget the problem, but there was a certain issue going on a job. And he was just like, somebody's got the answer. Go figure out who's got the answer. It's like, well, no, you help me figure it out. And he's like, no, you go figure it out. This is your growth moment. You go figure it out. And I did. And from there on, it's been that over and over and over again. Now there's like really zero stress when problems happen. Like there's always something going on. There's always something stressing you out. It's just how you deal with it and respond to it. And that all, came from growing as a leader, but then taking and absorbing everything that, my virtual mentors and, physical mentors have given me. And, the biggest thing for me too has been being able to pass that information along. So it's like, I've been able to lead my team and, people in my personal life to, and from a team aspect, we got a senior project manager in Jordan where it's like he's just came out and just blew up. He wasn't there originally, but then when he got there, like now I get to step away and focus on other things and seeing him grow and seeing other guys in the field grow. And then from a personal perspective, being able to watch, family members and friends, drop weight and like put on muscle and like from a physical, health perspective it's just rewarding. Like you just get a lot out of it. It's payment within itself.
Mhm.
So I could go on and on about that, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Off the rip. Um, who are the top 3 biggest, like, virtual coaches or virtual influencers that you relate to? Can't say
Yeah,
Jason.
from a leadership perspective, Jocko Willink through and through. I've read all his books 4 and 5 times. I just put them on repeat. I listen to him multiple times a year. We take his leadership coaching, virtually as well. Um, I listen to the podcast. I get, weekly email updates and whatnot, or newsletters rather. So, um, he really, really taught me how to be a leader. So I'll continue to use his leadership methods. that's what we implement in the field. I was like, how do I get, these guys to understand what I'm thinking on a daily basis? Well, why don't I just tell them to read what I'm reading? So, now it's like when guys come in, it's like, hey, read this book. This is exactly what I'm going to be talking. You want a piece of my mind? Here you go. Like, this is exact. And that's what I did with Jason. Jason would tell me to read a book, and I was like, okay, I'm going to read this book, and I want to know exactly what he's talking about. So Jocko Willink would be a big one. Early on for me, was Jordan Peterson, kind of just, the rules around becoming a good human, a good man. So I've went to, multiple of his talks, and listened to a lot of his stuff, a lot of his books, podcasts and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then a third one, that one's a hard one. They come and go so much, so it's it's hard. I'm always on a different one. It seems like right now, I've gotten him to running, so it's a guy named Nick Bear. He's basically he's a businessman, for one. So I get to hear a lot of his business side of things. But then for two, he's like, yeah, he's a bigger guy and then running these crazy ultra marathons and whatnot. And, for me, I was told I couldn't do a bunch of running stuff because I'm 6'4", 215. It's like, you're too big to run kind of thing. So now I'm about to do my first marathon. So right now that's kind of the season
Okay.
I'm in. Listen to him. And let me throw a fourth one in there. So a fourth one, really from a business perspective, and would be Alex Ramosi. I love listening to his stuff. He's so different than anybody else that I've listened to. So those are my top four. Sorry, I couldn't just pick three.
Okay. I'm with it. All right. Well, one of the things, Austin, that we try to like end each episode on is, what is some advice that you would give to younger you, for you to accelerate your development, right? Whether it's personally, professionally, financially, what would you tell 15-year-old Austin? And, what would you hope that he would get out of it?
Yeah, this is an easy one for me because I think we've kind of been talking about it the whole time. One, find a mentor. Find somebody who's doing what you want to do. If it's physically, find somebody that you want to look like. Find them and find that ideal person, and then implement what they do if you can get that information. So that's one. From a business perspective, find that mentor that's doing that exact same thing that you want to do. Find that person that has everything that you want in life and absorb all that. And then the skills, I mean, I think we kind of talk about it all the time. It's like, hey man, learn leadership and learn sales. Like if you learn leadership and sales, like a lot comes from that, whether it's directly from money or fulfillment or whatever it may be, leadership number one, in my opinion. And then, if you want to learn a really good skill set to make some money in the long run, sales is a good way to go.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. All right, cool. Well, Austin, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day for this.
Our first virtual episode.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah,
because Clinton had to move to Arizona.
All right, now go get back to work. What are we doing here? All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Building Insight. I'm Quentin Glenn, my co-host Amy Mareko. Shout out Beats by Dre for furnishing for big old headphones there. And Austin Wright with Flooring Pros, Director of Construction. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.